The more you try to make a man think about you, the less he actually does. And I know that's probably not what you came here to hear, but that's the actual problem most women never figure out. They're putting in real effort, texting at the right time, showing up looking their best, being fun and warm and easy to be around, doing all the things they were told would work. And he's still not the one lying awake thinking about her at night. He's fine around her. He enjoys her, but that deep thing, that thing where she's genuinely stuck in his head in the middle of his day when nothing is even happening, that's just not there. And she can feel that it's not there, even when she can't quite explain why. So what actually does it? What makes a specific woman get so deep into a man's head that he's thinking about her while he's at work, while he's sitting with his friends, while a random song comes on and she's suddenly just right there in his mind, even though nothing about that moment had anything to do with her? What actually creates that? Because it's real. It happens. You've probably felt the other side of it yourself at some point. Someone who got into your head that same way and just would not leave no matter what you did. You know exactly what that feeling is like. So what actually causes it in him? It's not how she looks. It's not how available she was or how nice she was to be around or whether she played it cool or texted back at the right time. None of that is what does it. And the women who actually have this, the ones a man genuinely cannot stop thinking about, most of them are not even doing it on purpose. They are not running a strategy. They are not following some playbook they read somewhere. They are just being a certain kind of person in a certain kind of way. And that specific way is what creates this. That is what today is actually going to be about. There are 7 reasons a man can't stop thinking about a specific woman. Not reasons he likes her, not reasons he has a good time with her, reasons she gets into his head so deep that she's there without him even choosing to put her there. And when you actually understand all 7 of them, 2 things happen at the same time. You stop doing the things that are quietly working against you, and you start to see clearly why certain men in your past could not let go of you. And maybe why one specific man right now keeps coming back no matter how much time passes. Before we get into all 7, tap like right now if you have ever felt like you were genuinely trying with a man and still felt like you weren't quite in his head the way you wanted to be. Because that feeling is exactly what today is going to fix. Now, before the 7 reasons, let's talk about what most women actually focus on when they're trying to figure out why a man isn't thinking about them the way they want. Because the stuff women usually put their energy into is not the stuff that actually does this. And understanding why those things don't work matters just as much as understanding what does. The first thing most women think about is how they look. If she's attractive enough, he'll think about her. And sure, the way she looks gets his attention when she's right there in front of him. But physical appearance doesn't follow a man home. It doesn't sit in the back of his mind 3 days later when he's in the middle of something completely unrelated. You can be the most attractive woman he's ever been around and still not be the one he's lying awake thinking about. Looking good gets you noticed. It doesn't make you the one his mind keeps going back to when you're not even there. Then women think about availability, being warm and responsive, making sure he knows she's there whenever he wants her. And that feels good to a man for a little while, but it doesn't create the thing we're talking about. If anything, it works against it, because the things we actually think about are the things that have some weight to them, some pull, some unfinished quality. Not the things that are just always right there whenever we reach for them. Constant availability doesn't make her unforgettable. It makes her expected. And expected things don't stay on your mind. Then there's the vibe. Being fun, being easy, making sure every interaction feels light and good so he connects her with good feelings. And that's not nothing. Nobody wants to spend time around someone who brings heavy energy. But good vibes make a man enjoy being around her. They don't make her impossible to stop thinking about when she's gone. A man can have a genuinely great time with a woman and walk away feeling good without her crossing his mind once between now and the next time he sees her. Nice experiences feel good in the moment and then just kind of disappear. What we're talking about is the opposite of that. So here is what all of that comes down to. Looks, availability, good energy, those are surface things. They work on the surface. They make her pleasant to be around. But what actually gets a woman into a man's head deep enough that she's there without him choosing to put her there, that comes from something else completely. It comes from 7 specific things. And here they are. The first one is that you said something that actually stuck with him. Not something clever you planned, not something you rehearsed or thought about before it came out. Something real and honest that came out of you naturally in the middle of a normal conversation, and he genuinely did not see it coming. Maybe it was a different opinion than most people would have. Maybe it was something a little vulnerable that you said without making a huge thing about it. Maybe it was just a small, genuine observation that showed him a specific way you see the world that he'd never quite heard put like that before. Whatever it was, it went in and it stayed. It didn't just pass through like most things do. It actually landed somewhere real in him. And here's why that happens. When someone says something genuinely real, something that isn't shaped or filtered or designed to land well, it hits differently than everything else does. Most conversation is honestly just noise. 2 people being polite, keeping things moving, saying what's expected. The real stuff is rare. And when a man hears something real come out of a woman without warning, it wakes something up in him that doesn't just go back to sleep. He couldn't have planned for it. He wasn't waiting to be affected. It just happened. And now whatever you said is sitting in his head and he keeps going back to it. That's the first reason, and it's the one that starts everything else. The second reason he can't stop thinking about you is that you didn't fall apart when things got a little uncomfortable. Because there are moments in every early interaction where the energy shifts, where something gets slightly awkward or there's a beat of tension that nobody planned for. And most people panic when that happens. They rush to smooth it over, bring the energy back up, make sure nothing feels weird. They're so uncomfortable with the discomfort that they immediately try to fix it and get back to easy. You didn't do that. You just sat in it. You didn't get rattled. You didn't scramble to make everything okay again. You stayed calm and present, like that moment wasn't something to be afraid of. And that told him something about you that almost nothing else could have told him that quickly. It told him you are solid. That there's something real and steady underneath the surface that doesn't shake just because something slightly unexpected happened. Men think about women who feel solid, not cold, not difficult, just genuinely solid. Because most people shake when things get a little bumpy. And when he finds someone who doesn't, who just stays grounded and present without needing to fix everything immediately, she stays on his mind because she represents something he honestly doesn't come across very often. The third reason is that you have a life he finds genuinely interesting. Not because you made it sound interesting or talked about yourself in some calculated way to seem impressive, just because you actually have things going on, things you care about, things you're working toward, things that light you up, that have nothing at all to do with him, a direction, a perspective on the world, things that make you a full person who exists completely outside of whatever is happening between the two of you. And this matters so much more than most women understand. A woman who has her own full life creates a kind of pull in a man that a woman without one simply can't create. When she's always right there, always completely available, always making him the center of everything, he doesn't have to wonder about her. There's nothing pulling him, no gravity, but a woman who has her own world, who he only gets to see part of. He thinks about the parts he hasn't seen yet. He wonders about her in a way he can't really control. And that wondering is what keeps her in his head in between the times he's actually with her. You didn't have to create that. You just had to actually have a life, actually care about things, actually be someone who exists fully outside of him. And that fullness is something his mind keeps going back to. The fourth reason he can't stop thinking about you is that you pushed back on him at some point without making it a whole thing. You disagreed with something he said, or you didn't just go along with something, or you had your own take and you said it clearly without being aggressive about it. You just didn't quietly disappear your own opinion to keep things smooth. And that did something to him that agreement never could have done, because agreement requires nothing. When a woman just goes along with everything he says, it starts to feel hollow pretty fast. There's no texture, no sense of a real person on the other side with actual thoughts of her own. But when you said, actually, I see it differently, he felt like he was talking to a real person, someone who has a spine, someone whose opinion means something because she doesn't just hand it to whoever she's talking to. Men think about women who challenge them in that calm, confident, quiet way. Not because men enjoy being argued with, but because being pushed back on by someone sharp and self-assured is genuinely interesting in a way that just doesn't happen all that often. It made him think. And when a conversation makes you think, you keep thinking about it long after it's over, which means you keep thinking about the person it came from. The fifth reason is that you made him feel something specific he couldn't quite name. And this one is the hardest to explain, but it might honestly be the most important one on this whole list. There was a moment, maybe just one moment, maybe a few, where being around you created a feeling in him that he wasn't expecting and couldn't fully label after. Not just attraction, not just enjoying himself, something a bit deeper than that. Something that felt a little like recognition, like this is different, like something here actually matters, even if he couldn't say exactly what. Maybe it was just the way you were in a specific moment, fully present, fully yourself, not trying to be anything. And something about that hit him somewhere real before his guard was even up. Feelings like that don't just disappear. They sit in you and they stay. He keeps going back to that moment, trying to locate it, trying to understand what it actually was. And that process of trying to figure out what he felt is the same thing as thinking about you. He's not going to stop until he understands it better. And the only way to understand it better is to be around you again. That's the fifth reason. The sixth reason he can't stop thinking about you is that you left when the moment was still good. You didn't stay too long. You didn't drag things out past the point where they were naturally at their best. At some point, whether it was ending the conversation first or leaving the evening while the energy was still high, or just not being available every single time, you left while he still wanted more of you. And that is honestly so much harder to do than it sounds, because most people, when something feels good, try to hold on to it. They stay, they keep going. They don't want the good feeling to stop, so they stretch it out past its natural peak, trying to make it last longer. And what that does, without anyone realizing it, is it slowly drains the energy out of the whole thing. It's like a great song that goes on for 3 minutes longer than it should. The overstay ruins the memory of how good it was. But when you left at the right moment, when there was still energy, still something unfinished, still a little wanting more in the air, that unfinished feeling followed him. That's the feeling he's sitting with when he's thinking about you later that night. You didn't close the loop, and his mind is going to keep coming back trying to close it. That's the sixth reason. The seventh reason, and this one is the simplest and the one most women completely overlook, is that you were just genuinely yourself. Not the version of yourself you put together when you're trying to make a good impression. Not the self that's been slightly shaped around what you think he wants to see. Just you. The actual real one. With your real opinions and your real reactions and the things that genuinely matter to you and the specific way you see the world that nobody else sees in quite the same way you do. And this is the most powerful thing on the entire list because of this. Everyone performs a little when they first meet someone. Everyone is slightly more careful, slightly more aware of how they're coming across than they normally would be. And when a man is around that version of a person, the careful, curated, slightly managed version, he can feel it even when he doesn't know what he's feeling. Something feels slightly off, like there's a thin layer of glass between him and whoever she actually is underneath. He can see her, but he can't quite touch anything real. But when he's around someone who is just genuinely present and genuinely herself, who isn't monitoring how she's landing, who isn't selecting what to show him, it feels like actual contact with an actual real person. And that is so rare that when he finds it, he doesn't stop thinking about it. Because most of what he comes across every day is the managed version of people. And you gave him the real version without even trying. Just by being you. That's why he can't stop thinking about you. Not because of anything you planned. Because he got a glimpse of something real and now he wants more of it. That's the seventh reason, and it's the one that holds every other reason together. Now, here's what actually matters after understanding all of this. Because knowing these 7 reasons is one thing, but there are a handful of things women quietly start doing once they know a man is thinking about them. And those things slowly undo everything that created it, without her even realizing it's happening. The first one is that she starts trying to recreate the moments that worked. She thinks about what landed before and starts doing it deliberately. She starts managing herself again. And the thing that made those moments land in the first place was that she wasn't managing anything at all. The second she starts trying to be the person who said that interesting thing or who stayed calm under pressure, she stops actually being that person and starts performing her. And he can feel the difference even if he couldn't tell you what changed. The second thing she does is make herself more available once she knows he's thinking about her. She figures the pull is already there, so she can relax her own life a little. She starts being easier to reach, more present, more centered around him. And without meaning to, she removes the exact thing that created the pull. The gravity existed because she had a world of her own. The moment she folds that world into him, the gravity disappears with it. The third thing is she stops pushing back. She was real before. She disagreed when she actually disagreed. She had her own opinions and she said them. But now that she knows he's into her, she gets careful. She doesn't want to rock anything. She softens. She goes along more. And that sharpness, that specific quality that made her feel real and interesting to him, starts to go quiet. And he starts to feel it. Not in one big moment, just a slow, gradual shift where something about her feels a little less alive than it used to. The fourth thing is that she gives away the ending too fast. That unfinished feeling she left in his head, she closes it. She makes herself completely available and completely known all at once. And the mind only keeps thinking about the things it hasn't fully figured out yet. The moment she becomes completely predictable, completely there all the time, she stops being something he's moving toward and becomes something he simply has. And having something is very different from wanting it. The fifth thing is that she stops being honest once the stakes feel real. She was open before because she had nothing to lose. But now she cares, and that makes her careful. She starts filtering what she says. She stops showing the parts of herself that feel risky. She becomes a slightly more managed version of herself. And that honesty, that unguarded quality, was the exact thing that got into his head in the first place. The moment it fades, something he was drawn to fades with it. None of this is about playing games or running some kind of strategy. It's actually the complete opposite of all.